Guys, Lyn Askin, you should listen to him, not because he scaled seven-figure agencies and helps other agencies scale and knows all about the ins and outs and problems that we have as agency owners, but because he goes deeper into really your mission and values and how you connect and how you can build your business to serve your life instead of the other way around. We just spent, I know it was only an hour, but I feel like it was timeless. And I want you guys to benefit from this. No matter what kind of business you have, it's all about people and service and showing kindness. I think you're going to have some moments just like me, and you might even tear up a little bit just like me. I hope you check out this episode. First off, I admire you because you're one of the few people in the world of digital that actually is a practitioner. And I've seen you win all these different awards as a successful multi-seven-figure agency. We've been to a lot of the same masterminds and events. You're very well known. And then, of course, as you scaled your agency in 2020, you had this heart issue that nearly killed you. As you told an incredible story. I actually cried a little bit when you told that story. And then you became an EOS implementer. And because you've actually scaled agencies, you've been able to help other agencies scale. So, Brady Sticker and Billy Sticker and who's Thaddeus and all these other guys in the agency space, you've been able to help them because you are a practitioner first yourself. It gives you a ton of credibility.
Thanks.
And so this amplifies upon itself. Yeah. And that's exactly what you want, because anyone who doesn't doing that, anyone who isn't is just like trying to make money by reading a sales script or whatever you want to call it, right? It's just very hard to have gone through the challenges that you've gone through that are necessary to show that you're a practitioner. I don't know how else to say it, except to say like other people are fraudulent or whatnot, right? So when I look up Lyn Askin, I see that you have your website. I see that you are featured. Look at all these people, right? Look at Matt Platt and John, the law firm guy, all these people. Your LinkedIn reflects this. Got EOS everywhere. All of us have read Traction, and you told me like you were with Gino, and like all these things that show who you are, right? Because you've made the pivot to the EOS, right? But when I see that, this makes me kind of sad. So I see all these people have interviewed you on EOS and how that process works and how you can facilitate these teams and drive success. Yet almost nobody is seeing any of this.
Yeah, there's no traffic.
This makes me sad. And it's not because your content sucks, and it's not because it's not useful, and it's not because it's not relevant to these other people in the agency space and home services or whatnot. It's simply because you haven't repurposed this. Meaning, take these videos, like, so funny because, Jonathan started this big AI kick. He went from the Whitebeard guy to home service and all, this huge AI group, right? I don't know, it's got like 150,000 people, I don't know, something like that in his group now, right? It's incredible. And I don't need to go on and on about how amazing AI tools are. But basically, we can take these videos, turn them into articles, link from all these other sites, and then we're trying to help us, like you're trying to help businesses that don't have their stuff together, and they're, operating in disaster because they're good people, but they don't have the EOS framework to be able to operate the right way, right? Which is, I'm sure it's like, you operate at a hospital and you see like all these people are in car crashes and they're dying and you want to help them, but no one knows where the hospital is, right? So you have all this all over. I don't need to tell you this, right? But 10 people have seen this. That you are like, this is a glass is half full kind of thing, because so many people that need to hear. Like I don't want to be guilty, Lyn, of just being one more person that is talking about how awesome you are, but no one sees it. Like I would be so sad and hypocritically mad that our podcast here is seen by 10 people. Like we look at this a month or 2 months down, only 10 people have seen it. Then I'm like, I wasted your time, right? I want to honor you and I want people to see it. So if you have a really VA, nice, or I'll lend you one of my VAs just for a little bit, just to take some of these things and use AI tools like Jonathan teaches and put it out there. as YouTube videos and articles and tweets and YouTube shorts and all kinds of derivative. You've seen me teach the content factory, right?
Sure.
I want to see that for you because then, like from an SEO standpoint, I look at this and lynaskin.com doesn't rank on anything. I
Right.
mean, what should I mean? I need to tell you about SEO. You've done a lot of SEO. I mean, right? This I don't need to tell you. This should be something else, right? And I want to use this podcast by pulling stories or things you want to say, that expertise, maybe even talking about things that you've already talked about. Because I don't want you to repeat all the stuff you've already said, right?
Yeah.
And and just turn this into stuff that I could link together off of a bunch of properties I own. I own some high powered media sites. And the fact that you have a great story and all the things that have happened where you've scaled your agency to be able to help other agencies and what you've learned along the way. Like, I would love to put that on my various sites. And other people can see that this I am in the open demonstrating how I am going to build some links for you and not charge you, obviously, because that would get me in trouble and this kind of thing, but to show like this is what all of us should do as podcasters is honor other people who are real practitioners so people can see who they can trust. That's all I want to do. And that's up to you. I mean, or that how you want to go and what you. I mean, I'm here to just amplify you.
Yeah, I certainly, as I think through all of those things that I should be doing, I will caveat that with that I had 16 full day sessions this month, and I've been traveling like crazy. So out of the 20 actual work days, probably had 16, full day sessions, 3 travel days, and maybe one day
Yeah,
off. So it's been a
you've
rough,
got the curse of
yeah, but I've
success,
been
right?
doing
So
this,
many clients.
been doing
It's
this
not
for
like you need more clients. Yeah,
yeah. Well, no, I mean, I still, I don't want to turn down
yeah,
clients. I still have room for, a handful more, and I want to help as many people as I can. I have a goal to help, to have 1,000 full day sessions with agencies. I
yeah,
want to do 1,000 sessions to help
yeah,
people with systems and processes and scaling and people and teams and all of those things. So
yeah.
I don't want to take my foot off the gas pedal.
How many are you at now on your goal to 1,000?
We have completed our 137th session, and I've done 97 of them virtually. So I've had 97 virtual sessions, and then whatever the
Okay,
difference is there in-person sessions.
but still, the flying is a lot. I mean, it's harder, but people like to see you. Wow, that how do you manage all that? People think I have a crazy travel thing. You do way more facilitating than I do.
Yeah, well, it's what I signed up for, and I love it, and it doesn't feel like work. It feels like I'm truly helping these people and these teams grow into better leaders and live better lives, honestly. And that's why I do what I do. I mean, obviously you've heard my story, and it changed my life a great deal. I knew I had to build and scale my own business, and then I felt heck, I sort of fell in love with it. I sort of felt like I had a knack for it. And I don't know 100% why I resonate with, people in this capacity, but I seem to. People seem to resonate with me, and I seem to resonate with them. And
Yeah.
it's been an amazing journey. So I'm almost 2 years in this EOS journey now. So I'm coming up on a graduate boot camp in February of 20, I guess it would be 23
Yeah.
EOS boot camp. So
Yeah, I remember you told me that when we were in Miami that you just got certified.
the thing that I remember most about you, and you've been so kind to me over the couple of years that we've known each other, and I'm sorry we haven't seen each other a whole lot in the last couple of years, but the thing that I remember, I spoke at that event. It was probably the first time I spoke in front of that many people with that sort of, platform and that many, potential target market clients. But I got up there, and it was real, and it was raw, and I shared, and I cried a little. And when I got off the stage, you were the first person that I ran into, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to say this thing." And you said to me, "Lyn, you're the only one in the room that knows you didn't say it." And that has carried over with me. Like every time I think about speaking or whatever, I just have to remember that no one out there knows exactly what I'm going to say. And in fact, I make a joke out of it. I'm like, man, I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say today. Like, I can't wait to find out what I'm going to say up there today, because I while I prepare, sometimes you get a little off track. But I appreciate that about you. You were so kind to me that day, and you told me that you could see that turning into TED Talk and all those things. It was encouraging, and it felt good, and I want to thank you for that. It's been a big part of my every time I speak, I think about you. So I just want you to know.
Oh, that means a lot to me. Thank you. That's so meaningful. I think so. I live more for that than anything else. When it's not money, it's not fame, it's not Ferraris or whatever it is. I just love seeing this kind of impact. I imagine that gives you this kind of energy and drive too. I'm curious, where do you get your energy, man?
I don't know the answer to that because I'm not like the best shape of my life, or anything like that. So I'm not in the gym a lot. I'm just really driven one by my family. I'm really driven to take care of my wife and my son and have a good life for us. So I'm driven there, family for well, probably God first, family, and then of course my clients and having them, gosh, the impact that I've had on these clients and these teams has this is again, I hate to use this word again, but it's the most impactful thing I've ever done. It's the most, what's the right word? It's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done
Yeah,
is to be
yeah,
with these teams and to see them grow from, these unorganized sort of messes and kind of scramble a little. And then some of them aren't like that. And some of them want to grow. But most of my teams start out putting out fires, and we spend the first few sessions and the first few quarters together, man, putting out the things that are burning down around them. And then at some point, Dennis, it's really cool. I get to watch them switch. I get to watch them switch and start to build the businesses that I've actually dreamed of having. And that's, it gives me goosebumps. I have goosebumps talking about
that's
it.
awesome. Mm.
To see them flip that, finally get to the point where they start to build the business they've dreamed of is just, again, I got goosebumps just thinking about it.
Can you recall one moment that gives you special pride?
There's been a lot. I think the thing that I probably will talk about here is, a lot of us in digital marketing world and me, even having a long career, having a successful, relatively successful agency and an exit and all those things. For 20 years, Dennis, I carried imposter syndrome around, thinking that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't doing enough for my clients. And I don't know, was that true? No, but I always felt like I wasn't enough. And so I think EOS has I don't feel that anymore. I
Mm,
don't feel that imposter syndrome anymore. I know EOS well. I know I can help my clients. And so I
mm,
don't feel like I'm selling somebody when I'm talking to them. I feel like I'm truly helping them. And that's, super powerful. But part of
yeah,
that came when I'm trying to think of a moment in the session room, but one of the most impactful things that happened in a session was, we were building an accountability chart. We build out the chart, we map it out on the wall, ask a couple questions. I ask, are these the right functions? Do we have the structure right? Are these the right,
mm,
are these the right roles and responsibilities? Do we have the right people in the right seats? And then I ask every team member in the room, do you have enough time in your day to do your job well? And when we got to, this was a small team, they're here in Louisiana, husband and wife kind of run it, but it's a oil field service company. And I got to the wife that was sort of in finance, HR, accounting. And I said, do you have enough time to do your job well? And she broke down crying and she said, no,
mm,
no, I don't. And she was in tears. And we just, we solved it. We just solved it. Her husband was super kind. He's like, well, let's just hire another person. But until you map that out and you realize that you're
mm,
sitting in multiple seats, I guess I like to say when you do that, you finally see the pain that you feel every day and you get to see
mm,
it like on paper or on the wall or on the whiteboard. And
mm,
we solved that for her that day by opening, by creating another split seat and splitting HR and finance and mapping those roles and saying, hey, we got to hire another person. And that happened really early in my EOS career, and that's kind of stuck with me. I'm changing people's lives for the better, and I'm helping them
mm,
sort of put a spotlight on what they, I don't know, I'm opening their eyes to what it really looks like in their business because, we get busy and we're, in EOS, we sort of joke that we're dealing with 136 issues simultaneously, but that's what it's like for most of us. And so
mm.
just give them clarity on that. No, you're not in one role. You're in like three roles. You think of it as one, but it's three. Let's delegate some of that to somebody else. And that was really impactful for me, just seeing that happen, the tears, the emotion, the solve, all of that. So I think that's the moment I'm thinking of.
That's awesome. So, man, I coach a lot of young adults that become agency owners and they adopt category, roofer, pest control, this kind of thing. And the most common thing that's confided in me is they tell me how they're working so hard every spare moment. They're overloaded, yet even still, clients will complain because they can't do everything, or one of their VAs messes up or whatnot. And they feel that despair from working so hard, yet often losing money and refunding and dealing with, just this awful horror. I mean, you know what it's like losing a client. It happens to all of us. And what advice do you have for a young adult in that situation?
A couple of things, but I'm really interested though, if it's okay if I flip that around on you really quick, because you've helped so
Yeah.
many people scale. You've helped so many people grow and scale their businesses. What do you think it is? Why do you think they struggle when they're young? I'll answer the question. I'm really curious what you.
Yeah. Oh no, and yeah, no one ever asked me that because I'm the one asking. This is great. I'm so glad you asked me. I think first with young adults in particular, social media, especially Instagram, gives this lie that it's very easy and there's never pain and it's just laptop lifestyle from the beach and all this money's coming in. And there's a focus on selling instead of a focus on delivery and the operations and the performance reporting and all the sorts of things that are not glamorous, like replying to emails and sending out the weekly status and hey, there's VAs. I mean, there's a lot of configuring tools and getting access to the website and correcting things. And so number one is that misalignment of expectations of what's reality versus, because it draws people in who think it's easy money. And you and I know any service business fundamentally is a service business, right? And then secondly, it kind of related to the focus on sales versus the operations, the client retention, just like Josh's second book, requires a certain level of expertise that usually the start of the business is sales bros that love to sell instead of operators who are good at project management and the day to day, which is a different kind of person than someone who wants to sell and is creative. It's like accounting versus engineering. I feel it's separate. And then the third, kind of related to that, and these all kind of cascade into each other, is the lack of systems and processes, which usually doesn't happen until you have enough money that you can then start to afford that. Or you grow so fast, you get this curse of success, almost like what you have. Like there's all these people want to work with you, but then you would violate your own work-life balance and be out of control. Even though you're the EO's guy, you have to watch the thing yourself, right? So I see people who are very successful. One, I won't name this guy, but he was very successful in the last month or so. He enrolled 10 clients at $3,000 a month. That's $30,000 at MRR. That's pretty good. And he's working as hard as he can. He has a small team of VAs, but whether it's VAs or kids who just graduated college or whatever it is, it takes time to onboard and train and get these people up to speed. So there's a lag between when you hire these people, getting them onboarded, and having the processes adjust as your team scales at the same time, because you have this triple threat, which I'm sure you see, where you're on board, everything's on fire because you have brand new clients that are not being taken care of. So they're initially, now a few days in, they're wondering like, what's going on? I signed up, I was all excited. Now I'm having to regret, what's going on. Now you decide to hire a bunch of new people, but the existing people who were supposed to be doing the work are now focused on trying to train new people. They're not doing the work because they're trying to do this other stuff, which creates more thrash. And then those clients churn. And then you go back to where you were. And then it just creates all this kind of thing, right? I mean, one guy you definitely know who he is. We're both friends with him. He has scaled up, and on social media, you can see he lives this great life. But a bunch of his clients have come to me in the last couple of months, very unhappy after having paid $20,000 and not much has happened. It's very easy to see because there's no record of the work being done. Because we always look for the accounting of what's happening. Show me that you've driven incremental leads. Show me that the phone rang. Show me that you're tied to the CRM. And then, don't just say how many leads you got on Facebook. Show me that it actually ties back to Salesforce or whatever it is, right? And that didn't happen. So he's having to now refund. And that's really painful, especially if he might not have the money or he spent it on his own personal luxuries. So
Sure.
that's my view for the young adults. Maybe young adults tend to be more likely to fall into this trap.
Yeah. So yeah, I think you hit on so many things that are 100% true. I'll add a few more things because I want to answer this sort of from my perspective. When you think about the pure way business starts, most of the time business starts is I don't start out to make a bunch of money. I start out because I found something that I love and that I'm kind of good at. I didn't fall into web development because I wanted to sell a bunch of clients web development. I just happened to build a website really early in my career in 1996, 97. And then my accountant just came along. She's like, "Hey, I've got another client who needs a website. Do you think you could help them?"
Mhm.
And I did, and then it kind of snowballed from there. And then a few years later, another client walked into my office one day and said, "What do you do here?" And I kind of showed him, where I had a e-commerce store and we sold printer cartridges online. And I showed him, basically all I do each day is kind of SEO and optimize our site and try to get ranked for these
Yeah.
things. He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, I need your help." And I mean, I went home that night and I talked to my wife and I'm like, I don't really want clients. I've got this pretty good life and we're okay. I sit in a cubicle and I by myself and I do my
Mhm.
work and I deliver for my clients. Man, I don't know if I want a boss. I don't know if I want that. But the truth is I went to them. They had spent a bunch of money on a website that wasn't working. They had I think, $8,000 or $9,000 a month hosting plan back, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. It's some ridiculous amount of hosting. And
Yes.
man, they needed my help, Dennis. And I felt like I helped them and I felt like I rescued them and I felt like I helped them navigate some of the more, I don't know, some of the, I don't know the right word, but there's people out there in this business who don't do the work. And so I built their website. We got them ranked. I got them out of that ridiculous hosting plan and got them down to something for 100 or so a month on their e-commerce store.
From
And
9,000 to 100 a month.
well, it was 9,000 a year. So it was a lot.
Oh,
It
okay.
was still a
Yeah.
lot, but it was, yeah. But I helped them. And you know what, Dennis,
Yeah.
that felt really good. And it felt like, and what I realized is, every business on the street I was on needed a guy like me to help them navigate this stuff. And then, why stop there? Every business in my town and then every business in my state. And then, and that's how I started business. It was sort of a pure like need to help. Now, some businesses start for that love of money and the Ferraris and the things that we talked about. And I don't know if that's the right reason always, and I'm not saying
Mhm.
that's wrong. I'm just saying you've got to find something deeper, meaningful to you, and you've got to understand why you do what you do, and you have to be passionate about it. You got to have a purpose or a cause or a passion that you're passionate about. It's
Yes.
okay if it's you and it's okay if it's your family, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you still have to deliver. And so, imagine Sally who's pretty good at making pies and she gives them to her friends. It's like, "Oh my God, Sally, you need to start a business. You need to start selling these things." And so she
Yeah.
does. And then she starts selling pies and then people start to buy them. And then pretty soon she's got more orders than she can handle. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, what people don't realize is because Sally's good at baking pies, it doesn't mean she's qualified to run a business. She doesn't
Mm.
realize that there's taxes and insurance and complaints and tech support and customer service and all of these things that now she's doing she's not just the pie baker. She's got all of these other positions she's got to fill. So she's got to get really good at cloning herself. And as you and I know, it's challenging. It's not impossible, but it's challenging. And then when you do clone yourself and you have a bunch of people around, it's really hard to find people who care about your business as much as you do. And so you really have to have a good not story, but you got to have a vision. You got to have vision that people can get behind. They got to see where we're going. They got to see it, they got to understand it, and they got to want to be a part of it. It can't just be punching a clock for them either, or you'll be in the same situation. It can't just be, you know, it has to be something that we all agree upon. Because if you can get everybody, again, I'm quoting Lencioni and I'm quoting Gino here, but you can get everybody on the right, get everybody in the right seats and getting them on the boat, and they're all rowing in the same direction, hopefully in the same cadence. Man, you can really have a great business. But sometimes you got people sitting in the back of the boat rowing the wrong direction, and it's tough to get everybody on the same thing unless we all believe in what we do. So that's part of it. I think part of it is just it is difficult to scale. It is difficult to understand what it takes to run a business when you start as a solo.
Mm.
Maybe if you were in sort of a corporate structure before and you kind of understood the thing you need, but to serve one client, and if you want, I mean, you got to have some SEO knowledge, you got to have web dev knowledge, you got to have paid ad knowledge, you got to have customer service knowledge, you got to get Facebook ad knowledge, you got to have AI knowledge. So does that mean you got to hire 6 or 7 people? Maybe. or you're just going to work yourself to death. I don't know. And so the challenges of running an agency are difficult. This is a tough business. It is not. This is not an easy one, I promise.
No, I think it's more difficult than Sally baking pies because people hit the E-myth problem and eventually they don't have the systems and processes and structures like you teach in EOS and traction and this kind of thing. But most people, they see the glamour, they don't realize there's structure behind it.
Yeah, one of the jokes I sort of tell to my clients, like, yeah, when you have your own business, you only have to work half a day. You can do anything you want with the other 12. You can do
So
anything you want with the
yeah,
other 12 hours, you know?
that's right. I say
Like,
I'm half time.
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work owning your own business. And then, when you do start to scale, you start to add people on your team. Now you take on, man, they're like your family and you got to take care of them. And now you've got this extra
Yeah,
responsibility on top of that. I mean, we had 27 people on our team at one time, and there was days I didn't know how I was going to make payroll. I mean, when COVID hit, we lost 40 clients to March 1st. And I mean, it was massive. And on February 28th, I told my team, "Hey guys, don't worry about it. This COVID thing. It won't last that long. We're gonna be fine. I'm not gonna fire anybody, and nobody's gonna get cut." And then the next day, I lose 45 or $50,000 in recurring revenue. But Dennis, I kept my promise. I used credit cards and debt and whatever, but I kept every single team member because I told them I would. I cared about them. They were my family, and I fought through it, and it was hard, and we took all kinds of crazy loans to try and survive, but we did. And I'm proud of that. I'm really, really proud of that.
that's incredible loyalty from running an agency and scaling and being there for your people with these crazy hits that no one can anticipate. And now switching over to being an EOS implementer. How, how has that changed your life?
Man, EOS EOS is a well, as a business owner, it changed my life in my business. It gave me structure. It allowed myself to hire good people and train good people and have structure for that and how to hold them accountable and how to check on them with scorecards and all those things, which gave me freedom in my business. And after 26 years of running an agency, that freedom, what I should have done is probably stepped on the gas pedal and went out and just like sales. But I think it was time for me to step back from a little bit. And so we didn't grow as much as we could have when EOS started working really well because I finally, after 26 years, I had a time to take a breath. But when I became an EOS implementer and I started working with other people, obviously it's a high ticket item. It's
Yeah.
it's quite a bit of money to have me come in, and so for me, if I work 2 or 3 days a week doing EOS implement, I mean, I'll make all the money that I need to make, and I spend Mondays as admin days. And after my first year in EOS, I blocked Fridays and just said I'm going to have a 3-day weekend every single week in
Mm.
2024. Now, to be fair, I worked some of those days, and I let clients book
Yeah.
some of those days, but I took a lot of Fridays off,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
allowed me to spend time with my family. We bought a new home. It allowed me to. Yeah, let me tell you this story really quick.
I,
When we sold our last house, we bought a kind of a dream home 2 years ago, even before EOS. But when we sold our the other house, Dennis, I spent like a couple of weeks like fixing all of the broken things around my house. I had to go, oh, that doorknob just needs to be fixed. I got to fix that thing, and the pool heater's not working, and I got to replace that. And at some point, I'm like, why am I fixing all this stuff now for the new buyer? Why didn't I, as I lived here, fix these things? Why did I let this quality of life happen for me? And this is what happens in a lot of people's businesses. You just let these things be broken all around you. And then someday, like when you go to sell, you got to fix it all up. Don't do that. So I vowed when I bought this home, I told my wife, I said, if something's broken, we fix it. If something's broken around here, it goes on a list. We prioritize it. We fix it. Now that extra time that I have around the house has given me time to go cut those trees and go put those landscape lights up and things like that. But it's changed my life in such a amazing way from just a time perspective. But of course, the impact that I've had. I don't know if you were there, but it was a couple of times ago at one of the seven figure agency conferences when Josh comes out the day that sort of the Titans group comes in, and that's the biggest agencies in the group, and he says, "Hey, who wants to share some wins for the quarter?" And so one of the members stood up and he said, "The best thing we did this quarter was hire Lyn." And he like turned on the light in our business. We felt like we were working in the dark and blah blah blah. And Josh was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And then the second person stood up and says, "Yeah, I got to say the same thing. I hate to say the same thing, but
I remember that.
the best
I
thing
was there.
quarter was
Yeah.
hire Lynn." And then the third person in a row stood up and said, "Yeah, me too. The best thing we did this quarter was hire Lynn," and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Dennis, I never got that kind of praise and feedback as an agency owner, even when I made millions of dollars for my clients. And I never got that pat on the back the way that I get it now because the impact is just so great on what we do. That's changed my life forever. I mean, it's the testimonials that we've gotten, the just the
Yeah.
random people. I don't know. You probably checked out a couple of the testimonials from Brady and Austin Erebor
Oh
and
yeah.
those guys.
These are well respected.
I couldn't have wrote. I mean, I couldn't have wrote better testimonials for myself.
You couldn't have
It's
paid for
incredible.
it. Even ChatGPT couldn't write something that good.
I couldn't have paid for. I couldn't have paid for those. It's
Yeah.
so that feels incredible as an EOS implementer to realize that you're having that sort of impact, and so that's that imposter syndrome and all that stuff goes away when you know what you do
Yeah.
is helping them, and you know what
Yeah.
you do is working, and you're never selling because you're always helping.
Because you have so much trust and so much referral that they're coming to you. You're like a doctor in the emergency room. You never have to sell. Lynn, what does it look like in 10 years from now? And say we're in, 2035. What are you doing?
Honestly, in 2035, I'll be 65 years old. I'm 55, Dennis. And so I'll be 65. I can see myself in session rooms doing, maybe not as many sessions, but I see myself in session rooms helping my clients grow and scale their businesses. I 100% believe that's what I'll be doing at 65. I'll be working maybe 1 or 2 days a week, but 100% that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be helping, whether it's agencies or anything else. Right now, obviously, my sweet spot is agencies because of my network and my experience. But yeah, I see myself in session rooms, drawn on whiteboards, drawn on my vibe board here, traveling around the country a little bit and sharing and implementing EOS. Totally, that's what I see myself doing.
You chose the goal of the 1,000 sessions. Why the 1,000? And what do you expect to have happened or when you hit that 1,000, what will have changed?
Yeah, in EOS we set a lot of big goals, and so this is sort of my big BHAG or my big hairy audacious goal or my 10-year target. So I set this like a couple years ago, and I had said it at first. I can't remember what it might have been a financial number or something. And as I looked at it, I'm like, I'm not passionate about that. I'm not passionate about a financial number. What number, or what metric, or what goal can I set that is meaningful to me? And so, whether it's, help 100 businesses or have 10,000 sessions, it really was about the impact that I have. I believe that at 1,000 sessions, I'll have looked back on the last 10 years and I will see businesses grow and scale, and I'll see businesses sell. I'll see families grow. I'll see family businesses pass between family members. I'll see, people get freedom. And that's what I believe that I'll see when I'm at 1,000. I'm seeing it now. I I just believe that if I do 1,000 sessions between now, I did, you know, probably 60 or 80. I did 85 sessions this last year. I'm shooting for 125 this year. I'd love to average about 100 sessions a year. And I want to go deep with my clients rather than wide. I want to have a handful of clients that we go really deep with. And I want to be really passionate about what we do. And so we do about 5 sessions a year with clients. And so if you kind of do the math there, 100 sessions, 120 clients, 20 clients a year that I go real deep with. And I want to do that over the next 8 years.
I love that. You're multiplying impact instead of just trying to scale the factory. So let's say that you're on this path and over the next 10 years, you hit that goal of 1,000 sessions and it amplifies the existing reputation that you have. And you love seeing this change and people stand up in the audience and say how you changed their lives and it was the most impactful thing. Let's say this is sort of a macabre thing to say, but my friend Caleb Williams is a financial services advisor and a public speaker, and it's all about you are your number one asset, and how do you maximize the value of that? And one question he says, he says the most valuable question you can ask yourself all year, or the most valuable 5 minutes you can spend all year, is record a video if If you had died, and then this is the video that plays when everyone gathers together, what is that message that you have for people? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to tell people? Right. And that exercise forces you kind of to think about what do, what impact do I want? It kind of like gets you into action today to accelerate the goals that you have. But if you were to make that, it seems weird, but just sort of like the eulogy message that you want to deliver, that everyone's gathered together, and your face comes up on the screen. Hey guys, if you're seeing this, it means I'm not here. What would you say?
Immediately, immediately, I hope that you find that I was kind. I hope that you find that I cared for you. I hope you believe that in your heart, because I did. I hope that when we spoke, I listened more than I spoke, and that I asked great questions because I want to know more about you. I hope that I had an impact on your life somehow that was meaningful and not superficial. I hope that you cherish the time we spent together, because I know I did. Those are the things I would probably say. I hope when I'm gone, I'm tearing up a little here. I hope when I'm gone that people remember me as kind.
I like that. I've never heard that answer before. I've usually heard answers about the impact and mission and vision, but that comes across so authentically, man. That's so
Oh,
meaningful. Thank you.
thanks.
That means so
I,
much.
I I did an exercise a few years ago where I wrote my own eulogy, but I wrote it as if my son had to give it. And what it did is it allowed me to position what would I want him to think of me, and what would I want him to say about me, which allowed me to build the life that I believe that he could give that speech today, you know. And so that was a meaningful exercise that I did several years ago, where I wrote it from his perspective, and it gave me a target. It gave me something to live up to, so that he could say great things about his dad when he was gone.
Well, now that you're 55 and you have so much experience behind you, and my hope is that you're only halfway there and you make it to 110, you and me both. What's a question you wish people would ask you?
Boy, that's a difficult one for me. I don't know that 100%, but let me think through this a little bit. And so all of those questions are hard for me, because the questions that I would want them to ask me sort of challenge me on, what do you love? What do you care about? What are your hobbies? Because I don't know what those are 100% for sure. I think I would like to try and pin those things down, and really, obviously I have purpose in my family, and taking care of them. And my son's a 22-year-old kid who's just getting kind of started in life, and I want to see him succeed. And I had somebody ask me the other day, what does success look like for you? And, outside of money. And I don't, well, that's easy. It's that my adult children want to hang out with me, and they want to spend time with me.
Mm,
That's success to me. If I'm 55 or 65 and my son still wants me around, I've done everything that I wanted to do in my life. And so, ask you want to know me, and you want to get understand me. Ask me about my son. That's the question I would have you ask me. Ask me about my son.
Oh, what is it about the bond that you and your son have?
This is interesting, because it goes back to my career, because my wife and I were in the casino business in Las Vegas. We'd kind of worked our way up. I was a casino floor supervisor at the Mirage. She was a casino floor supervisor in the Baccarat pit. I worked in the high limit pit. And, we met, we kind of fell in love. We got married, had a baby, and we both quit those jobs because it didn't feel like, I had something on the side, and I was building my e-commerce store. And when, he was born, she said, Lyn, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. This is the most important thing that we have. And I agreed. And I said, I'll take care of you. And, it was a lot of lean years. But the thing that I'm most proud about, Dennis, over those, last 22 years, is I never missed a karate class. I never missed a
Mm,
piano recital. I never missed a soccer game. I never missed a baseball game. I never missed a math.
not one.
Not one. Not one. Not one. I took every time away. The life that I built in my business was designed to have this life with my family. And so I
Wow.
didn't miss a single one of those things. And the bond that he and I have now is just incredible. As my son would, oh heck, I remember it plain as day. We were at like the Math Olympics district thing here in Louisiana somewhere, and my son won, and he looked up in the crowd into this giant sea of moms, and I was the only dad in the building. And that's okay. Like people have to
Yeah.
work and all that stuff, but the reason that I have this business is to be able to have that. And so the bond that he and I have is incredible. In fact, today we booked a trip to Tokyo. So we're going to Tokyo next month. We sat
Nice.
and watched videos of Tokyo. We're making plans and we're doing itinerary. It's going to be a blast, and I just can't wait. But he gave my life purpose, Dennis. I was living a life of living in Vegas, driving a sports car, wearing a suit to work. When he was born, I finally grew up. I was in my 30s. I finally realized that I quit drinking. I realized that there was something bigger in life than me and something more important than me. But I didn't realize it until he was born. So I think that's why his and I's bond is so strong and why he gave my life meaning.
You architected your work around what was really important, the relationship with your son, which most people don't have the luxury to be able to do
Yeah.
if
Yeah. And
you're
I
an
was lucky. And we
entrepreneur.
had really tough years. I mean, there was years, I mean, plenty of years I made 10, 12 grand or whatever it was, and juggled, and I juggled in credit cards and have a great year and I'd pay them off. And then I just did, but I wasn't also going to be the guy who was never here. I did those things so we could be together. I mean, we played so much like Xbox and Lego Star Wars together and all these things that we did. We went to Legoland, we went to Disney, we went to Minecons, we just did all kinds of amazing things together. And while it wasn't easy financially, I wouldn't I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
You never missed one soccer game, one practice, one competition in
Not one.
22 years.
Not one.
That's that is like a top 1%. I don't know of another parent that's done it. That is like I would put that at the top of the resume ahead of all the other things that you've done, you know?
It's the thing I'm most proud of in my entire life.
What do other people say when they hear that? It's unbelievable.
It feels it I don't know, maybe it feels
I know you're
I
not
hope I don't
boasting,
make
but that's incredible.
I hope I don't make them feel bad because I know people have to work and I know that not every almost no one can do that. I did it and I'm proud of it, but I don't it's not a slight on anybody else. That's not it at all. It is just it happens to be something that we had tough years. It wasn't until the last 5 or 6 years that I felt like I ever had any money. We had a bunch of employees and those things, and then I had to take time off to be at these events, and my foot was never really on the sales gas pedal. We were about really really helping our clients, going deep rather than wide, and now my son's 22 and he doesn't need me as much anymore. And honestly, these are sort of prime earning years for me. And so I want to
Yeah.
have as much impact as I can have. I want to, tack on a few more EOS clients, do some other work, maybe some speaking and consulting, some other things.
Yeah.
This is perfect time for me to go out and build that sort of nest egg or retirement that I never really was able to do before. And if I could do something that I love while I'm doing it, man, amazing.
I feel like you and I have been good friends for a really long time because of the depth and the earnestness and the kindness that you shared here. What is it about people like you that where you're able to go deep like this? Like I feel like we've spent the whole day together, yet I know it's only been 47 minutes.
I don't know the answer to that exactly, but I think I might touch on it just a little bit. In our EOS sessions, and it happened this week, I did an EOS annual. And the first day of our annual, we do team building exercises. And one of those team building exercises is called personal histories. And so we
Hmm.
share a little bit with each other. And so each person goes around the room and they says, what is your hometown? How many siblings do you have? What was the most difficult challenge growing up? What was your first job? What was your worst job? And then what's one thing that you want to share about yourself that we don't know about you? And so we do these exercises together, and it's really cool. It takes the teamwork trust up just a notch, right? But when I had to do that too, I had to participate. And so when I wrote down my greatest challenge, I think growing up was when I moved from Las Vegas to Montana. My siblings were 8 years older than me, so they didn't move with me. And so I moved to Montana and I was alone. And we lived
Hmm.
out on a farm out in the middle of nowhere in eastern Montana. And I was literally alone most of the time. And I think, Dennis, I think that's caused me to crave human connection. And I think it's just something that I think that was ingrained in me back then when I was 10, 11, 12. I just want to know people deeper. I'm not good at small talk. I want to know you. I want to know what you care about. I want to know. And again, we can disagree whether it's political or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't. My two very best friends are polar opposites for me politically, but we love each other because we have deep relationships and we actually care about each other in deep ways. And so, why am I like that, Dennis? I'm not 100% certain, but I sort of, if I could put my finger on it, is probably just my desire for human connection, for being alone. Sort of growing up by myself from 10 to 18 or whatever.
Because Lynn, you have an ability to build rapport and to get deep and meaningful. And when I was a child, I saw people like you, and I prayed for that. I thought maybe people like you were just charismatic, or they just had it. And it's like being tall or short. There's nothing you can really do about that. Is it possible, other people that are watching this, maybe they're young adults and they're shy and they see your ability to empathize and go deep. And you talked about kindness, and that clearly resonates through. You didn't even have to say that. That was obvious just in the way you were. But they want to learn how to facilitate and lead and connect with people in the way you do that. What's your advice to them?
Oh my gosh, I love this question so much. I could have wrote this for myself. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. One, I worked in Las Vegas. I told you that. I was a blackjack dealer, high limit pit. I dealt to every celebrity you can think of from in the 90s, probably 91, 92, 93, all the way to 2000 and something. I dealt in the high limit pit in the Mirage when the Mirage was the premier property on the strip. So I dealt to Michael Jordan 100 times. I dealt to Charles Barkley. I dealt to Dennis Rodman.
Wow.
I dealt to Wayne Gretzky. I dealt to tons of actors, actresses. And one time a player asked me, like, who's your favorite celebrity you ever dealt to? And I had to think about that for a second. But I said, it wasn't my favorite celebrity. My favorite person ever that I dealt to was NASCAR driver Dale Jarrett. And let me tell you why. It's because when Dale sat down at my table, he didn't talk about blackjack. Dale asked about me. Dale said, "Hey, Lynn, where are you from?" "Really, Montana." "Like, where are your parents from? Where'd you grow up? How far is that from here? Where'd you go to high school? What was that like going to high school in Montana? What was it
Huh.
like moving back to Vegas?" Like, he was so curious about me that it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I didn't realize this until last year. I didn't realize what had happened until last year because I was at a conference that I spoke at, and then we went on this sort of boat tour of Miami afterwards. And a young girl came up, and me and some friends were having a conversation about religion and the universe
Yeah.
and things like that. And she came over. She goes, "What are you guys talking about?" And we said, "Oh, religion and God and death." And she's like, "Oh, really? What happens when you die?" And she just started asking questions. She's like, "Well, do you believe in
Huh.
reincarnation? And what about this? And what about that?" And I turned to her and I said, "You're fascinating." And in that moment, Dennis, I realized to be fascinating, you have to be fascinated.
Wow.
To be interesting, you have to be interested. And so ask more questions. Be curious. The Ted Lasso, be curious and be genuine. Like, you can't fake this. This can't be fake interest. You have to truly be curious about other people. That's how you build rapport. That's how you have charisma, whatever you want to call it. And
And you can develop it.
I don't particularly believe that I have that. I just know that when I get nervous, Dennis, I talk about myself. And so I have to catch myself and I have to remember to ask questions, and I got to ask about you, and I got to remember to do that because I'll shoot off and talk about myself all day long if you let me, if I get nervous, and which I'm doing right now. So I'm just still talking about myself here. And so, gosh, Dale Jarrett set the tone for me that day. He made me realize that if you can show a genuine interest in somebody, Dennis, I wasn't a NASCAR fan. I never watched NASCAR in my life, but you can bet your bottom I went and bought an '88 hat, and I started watching because Dale was nice to me and Dale cared about me and Dale asked questions about me. The power we have as leaders, as speakers, as bosses, as owners, you don't realize the authority that you have over people. I don't think of it that way. I don't, but they do. They're like, "Ooh, that's Lynn," or "Ooh, that's Dennis, you," or that's my boss. Or
Yeah.
can you imagine if your boss just came to you and say, "Hey, tell me about your weekend. Like, what's important to you in life, and where'd you grow up, and where'd you go to school, and what was that like? Where were your parents from? Where did they go to school? Oh, your dad was in the army. Really? Where'd he serve? That's cool. Like Germany, awesome. Like, it's just genuine interest. That's all. So I'm glad you asked the question. I hope that was a good answer. That's
Yeah.
my story, and I'm sticking to that.
Asking these thoughtful, interesting questions is a hallmark of kindness. Are there any questions you want to ask me, Lynn?
Oh gosh, yes, 100%. Some of my favorite questions to ask. I want to ask you, what belief did you have 5 years ago that you no longer hold today?
I believe there's counterintuitive. I believe there's not as much time as you believe that there is, but I also believe that you don't need to hurry and that God makes everything happen in the right time in a Romans 8:28 kind of way. It's kind of illogical, but I found that this is weird for an engineer, but when I let go or let God, then things that are better than I ever could have imagined just kind of fall into my lap. I used to, the engineer in me is like, you got to work hard. You have to make things happen. You have to hit the plan and the goals and that kind of thing. I'm all about organizing SOPs, processes. My mentor was the CEO of American Airlines, and airlines know all about SOPs and procedures and, paper. It came from the government. That's where the airline started from. So I learned in that environment. But to me, 5 years ago, if you told me this, I would say that's reckless to take time off of your health to go and play. And I took a couple days in the wilderness. I took 4 days in the wilderness a month and a half ago, deep inside Vietnam in the caves, world's deepest caves and all that. No internet connection, no laptops, no electronics, right? And I thought, you know what? at first I had like my digital cravings because, the first day or two of the trip, like I just don't have, all these things and I don't know what's going on. I'm just enjoying the nature and challenge, all the challenging, like trying to not die because you have to fully focus when you're in these caves, right? There's water and you're swimming and you have to go through these cracks. I could barely fit through. I didn't want to get stranded. But it's weird because I've gotten more done when I'm actually not working. That makes sense. Or maybe I had this American work ethic kind of thing, or maybe the entrepreneur, or maybe I like didn't trust God enough that I felt like, okay, I believe in God, but I'm still going to work, 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 right? I'm working less and more things are happening for me. It's weird.
That's amazing. I believe almost similar thing. That wouldn't be my answer to the question, but I too think that I have had bigger impact this year. I have had more, again, deeper rather than wider. I think we go real deep with our clients and I've taken more time off. Like I told you, I had 85 full session days last year. So you can call it 85 days of work in the year. Of course we do biz dev and stuff on Mondays and we have days on
Right.
Fridays, but 85 full session days last year, out of the 250 available work days, and still had a great life and great impact. And so I believe there is something to that, not killing yourself every day. The belief, if I were going to answer the question 5 years ago, Dennis, I don't know that I believed that I was enough.
Mm.
I believe that I wasn't enough, and today I don't have that feeling. Today I believe I'm enough. There's a country song by Sawyer Brown. It's from the '80s, and there's a lyric in that I think is kind of funny. And the lyric was, "Some girls don't like boys like me, but some girls do." And what I mean by that is, not everybody's for you. Like not every client's going to work for you. Not every relationship that you get into or friendship, maybe they don't. I don't need those people that don't need me. There's enough people in my circle, in my life, or the kind of people that I want to be around, that some people resonate with me, and I don't understand it, but I want to embrace that.
I love it. That's amazing. Such an honor, Lynn, to spend time with you. Do you have any final words of wisdom or encouragement for our friends?
I was thinking about this a minute ago. If you're listening and you're struggling with your business, or you're struggling with scale, or you're struggling with the common problems that young businesses face, the first thing I would do, I want to give you a couple tips, 80/20 here. You get clear on your vision. I want you to imagine what it's going to look like 10 years from now. I want you to imagine what it's going to look like 3 years from now. I want you to build a really clear picture of what your company needs to look like 3 years from now. Map it out, draw it out, write it out. Predict your revenue, your profit, your measurables, and then and then actually write out what it looks like. Write out what your life's going to be like. Write out, about your core processes. Write out what kind of benefits you're going to have for your team. Write out the number of employees you're going to have. Write out that you're going to have an office, or you're going to have, in-person annual events, or what. Just picture it. Because if you can picture it, if you can build something in your head, the odds of you achieving it are obviously so much greater. And then break that down and say, well, if that's where I'm going to be in 3 years, where am I going to be in 1? And do the same exercise, but in a shorter time frame. And then when you do that, now let's break that down into 90 days. A human can only really like focus for about 90 days, and then everything kind of falls apart. So you gotta come back together with yourself every 90 days and really look at your plan, look back at the past quarter, see how you did. What can we learn from it? And then, of course, what do we do with the past? Well, we move on from it because it was the past. We learn from it, we get better, and then we set a new plan for the next quarter. And so if you'll do that with yourself and you'll check in with yourself weekly, kind of just keep on track, you'll make progress. One of my favorite stories from EOS is that when Gino started EOS, he had big dreams for it. And this guy named Don Tinney, and Don was like the second EOS implementer, but he was a mentor to Gino, or their friends before. And he asked Gino, hey, like, where are you going with this EOS thing? And Gino said, I'm going to have 10,000 companies running on EOS. And Don kind of chuckled a little and said, how many have now? And Gino said 53. And Don said, well, how the hell are you going to do that? And Gino said 90 days at a time.
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Guys, don't get too ahead of yourself. Set a big goal, set a big target, and then work towards it 90 days at a time. Got to put in the work. That's it. And then reach out to mentors. Reach out for help. Join a group of people around you. We all need a coach. We all need a peer group. Those are things we need. And there's probably one other thing or two or three that we need, but for sure we need those things.
Amen, man. This has been a gold mine of gems to repurpose. I appreciate you wanting to sign up and share some time, on the Coach U show. If you could just sum up real quick, why should people, and this is the beginning, we always record the intro at the end, right? So we want to encourage people why this is time, why they should listen to this, who this is for, why this is going to create value for them, right? Because people are busy and they're going to scroll through social media. We have to convince them, hey, this is for you. Stop and listen. Because Dennis and I talked about this.
Yeah.
So
I think the show was really interesting, Dennis, because we didn't just talk numbers and business and goals and scale and whatever. We talked about real, honest, truth life, just true life. We talked about what our lives are like. We talked about what we want out of life and why we've done the things we've done. And it's more about, maybe the impact that we're having on our families and on our own personal lives and on the people around us than it is money and revenue and scale and leads and, the hustle, right? I think it's really important. If you have a business and you want to build a great life, if you want to do what you love, you want to do it with people you love, you want to have a massive impact, you want to be appropriately compensated, and you want to have time for other interests. And so if you want those things in your life, you should listen to this podcast.
That's an A right there. I'll put in one and then you'll put in another one just so we have a little extra for the video team to be able to chop off.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm so grateful to have spent this time with you. I am sorry I've been a bad friend. We haven't talked enough,
Perfect in God's timing. This is the right timing.
Hey, look, I know we all get busy and all of those things, but I appreciate the time that you've always given me. Dennis, you've been incredibly kind to me. It's a quality that I admire, that I'm drawn to. It's a quality that I hope I exude. I hope I'm kind to you, and I hope I'm kind to people. And so I don't know, we should definitely connect more often, because this is the best part of my week. And I'm so thrilled and honored to be able to spend it with you.
I'm honored to spend a Sunday afternoon too. That's what you picked on the calendar. Maybe all the other slots were full.
Tomorrow is slam packed, and I'm off to Miami on Tuesday. And then when I get back, I got 5 session days. And then I'm off to, where am I off to next? Texas, Centennial. I don't know. I'm off somewhere. I'm traveling like crazy. And so I'm super glad you had a spot here.
Awesome.
It was open.
Safe travels, Lyn. Yeah.
Hey,
maybe I'll see Louisiana at some point. Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Awesome. We'll see you, my friend.
Thanks, Dennis.
Talk soon.